Hey buddy, watch this.
Hello, Regis Kilbin is the name, and Hearthstone is the game, and this is my Whispers of the Old Gods Budget Zoo Warlock deck guide. Now this is a beginner/budget deck that is designed with a very strict arcane dust budget in mind. It's designed specifically for beginners or maybe players who are just returning to the game for Whispers of the Old Gods and are looking to get back in with a somewhat competitive deck that's very, very affordable to craft. So this deck is not designed to get you to Legend. It is designed to get you moving on the ladder up to rank 15, perhaps even rank 10, with a solid start that you can then grow and expand in the future. So the goal of the Budget Zoo Warlock is much like any other Zoo-style deck. Essentially, you want to load up the board with minions as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And that means emptying your hand often, but Warlock is so good with their hero power at refilling their hand with cards and top-decking cards that you can essentially just continue to apply pressure to your opponents over and over again and overwhelm them with minions while maintaining board control and eventually just winning the game on the back of some extra damage with cards like Power Overwhelming or Soulfire to finish them off. So this Zoo deck certainly makes some concessions compared to a normal Zoo. It's missing some very powerful but also somewhat expensive cards. But that said, it's still competitive enough and consistent enough that it's a surprisingly good ladder deck as well. So I want to go ahead and jump into this deck list. Before I do, I should note that this is a standard format deck. It does not, though, include any cards from League of Explorers or Blackrock Mountain, because until you buy those expansion wings, you are not able to craft the cards or access the cards. So it's hard to pick and choose just one good card from an expansion wing, and therefore it's quite prohibitively expensive to add expansion cards to a budget deck. Of course, Blackrock Mountain features the best Zoo card in the game, Imp Gang Boss, so that is definitely an upgrade. But until then, until you get access to those cards, you got to make it work with craftable cards from Old Gods Grand Tournament and the Classic set as well, and that's exactly what you'll find here. So let's go ahead and move into the deck list and just spend 20-30 seconds discussing each of these cards in a little bit more detail. Power Overwhelming, of course, is just a +4/+4 buff that sacrifices a minion in the process, but this deck has so many cheap minions and token minions that you don't really care if they die, like Possessed Villager, for instance. It's fine if it dies. So sometimes you can use a Power Overwhelming to turn that into a 5/5 that trades up into a bigger minion, clears a taunt, etc. Power Overwhelming can also just be used for +4 damage in the late game for a little extra burst, or even +8 if you have 2 of them. Soulfire is much the same as Power Overwhelming in that sense. It's really all about clearing minions or hitting the enemy's face, only to achieve lethal, though, not just in the middle of the game. Soulfire can be punishing because it has a discard a random card effect. But the good thing about this particular version of Zoo is that we don't really have that many good cards. It's very unlikely that Soulfire discards something like a Doom Guard in a traditional Zoo. That can be a very big problem, so you don't see a lot of Soulfires run. But for us, any card we lose is not necessarily fundamental to the success of our deck. So it's fine to discard stuff from time to time if you do need to use Soulfire to clear a really valuable minion that your opponent has out there. Abusive Sergeant is just a nice, cheap, efficient minion with a great effect that, again, allows stuff to trade up more efficiently while still depositing an annoying minion. Flame Imp's a great one-drop that has a downside, but really it's not a downside at all because we either win or we lose. The 3 damage from Flame Imp will rarely make or break a game because it doesn't really matter. By the time we lose, it would have been over anyway. So it's really just a nice, strong, powerful 3/2 body for 1 mana that allows you to get out on the board very rapidly and start chunking at your opponent's health. Possessed Villager is also a 1-drop minion, but it's a little less powerful than Flame Imp, I would argue. It's got 2/2 in total stats spread across 2 bodies, so it does combo nicely with the Power Overwhelmings and the Abusive Sergeants and so on and so forth, sacrificing the first half of this minion while still leaving something behind for future cards to benefit off of. Voidwalker is just a nice little taunt that's a 1/3 that can contest stuff like your enemy's 2/1 1-mana minions quite effectively. Taunts are also good because Voidwalker can essentially protect your Flame Imp from a trade or a weapon or something that would otherwise kill it, so you can use a relatively weak Voidwalker to protect more valuable minions like Flame Imp. Acidic Swamp Ooze is included as just a a free 2-drop that's a nice little addition because it can destroy those weapons that would otherwise wreak havoc on your early board. Balefin Tidehunter is a new Whispers of the Old Gods card that's very good at loading up the board, just because it does summon 2 minions at a single time. And it's a Murloc, but we don't care about Murlocs in this deck. There's no Murloc synergies necessarily. That's not why it's here. It's just here because it's multiple minions bundled into a single card. And the second one actually has Taunt, which sometimes, much like Voidwalker, can actually inadvertently protect some other really valuable minion that your opponent just can't get through the 1/1 Taunt in a reasonable or efficient way. So they have to send like a 6-attack minion into your 1/1, and it saves your board and saves you some time. Flame Juggler is just a really solid 2-drop that's got a good body for trading, and also has a solid battle cry that can kill off some relatively important things from time to time. Murloc Tidehunter is exactly like Balefin Tidehunter, but a little bit worse just because it does not have Taunt. But all the same reasons Balefin is good. It's also good just loading up the board and has synergies with the Darkshire Councilman as well, which does benefit anytime you summon a minion. So that is a twice benefit with cards like Murloc Tidehunter. 2 minions are summoned, so Darkshire Councilman actually gains +2 attack when that happens. Succubus is not a card you typically see in Zoo, because the discard a random card battle cry is normally much more punishing when you have great cards to discard. As I mentioned before, we don't have that many awesome cards, so discarding a card is not often as punishing, particularly when we have a lot of 1-drops that we can afford to lose. But getting a 4/3 body out can actually be beneficial. 3 health doesn't trade super well all the time. It's somewhat susceptible to removal spells like Frostbolt as well. But when this gets out and it sticks and you're able to hit for 4, you can sometimes get a lot of face damage in and occasionally make very powerful minion trades as well. So Succubus is surprisingly okay despite her lack of popularity. Argent Horse Rider is just a solid little charging minion that's almost a removal spell on himself. He can kill 2 health stuff with ease while leaving a minion behind. The Divine Shield can also just make him annoying for opponents to deal with. Darkshire Councilman is another new Old Gods card that fits into Zoo. So we have Possessed Villager, Balefin Tidehunter, and Darkshire Councilman are actually the only Old Gods cards in this list, but all 3 of them are actually incredibly good. This one being the best, and this one defining this list in many ways. This is a 5 health minion for 3 mana, which is very, very good. You might say, oh, but it's only got 1 attack. But really, in this deck, it does not only have 1 attack. It very likely will go to 2 and 3 and 4 attack, as you're able to play cards like Razorfin Hunter and Balefin Tidehunter and multiple 1-drops. It's not hard to buff this into a very powerful minion quite quickly. And getting like a 5/5 for 3 mana is very good, particularly over multiple turns, as it's able to attack multiple times, typically because your opponent can't often kill it cleanly on turn 3. Razorfin Hunter is just another minion that loads up your board with multiple bodies, which is nice for this deck. Wolf Rider, much like Argent Horse Rider, can just be instant damage. With decks like this, sometimes you do just have to dig out a win, and the longer the game stretches on, the less likely you are to win, just because of the deck's style. It likes really fast games, but also because your card quality is lower, so the opponent will start to get better and better cards, and that difference in their good cards and your weak cards will start to express itself greater over time. So occasionally you're going to have to turn the corner from building a board and start looking for the win. And cards like Horse Rider, Wolf Rider, Soulfire, and Power Overwhelming give you the extra burst damage that you need to sneak out wins that would otherwise seem impossible. And then finally, Frostwolf Warlord is not the perfect replacement for Doom Guard, needless to say, but it is kind of the same thing. It's essentially just a big late game, well, not late game, but big mid-game body that can sometimes just win you games because your opponent doesn't have an answer for it, and it's often going to be a 6/6, 7/7. It's going to get big buffs because you will have multiple minions out on the board at all times. So this is kind of just the finishing piece, and it's a nice free card as well. So I think an underrated card in general, and a good fit for this deck. Now, you might be saying, oh, this list doesn't look all that powerful. It's a lot of weak cards, a lot of free cards. I don't get it. And to some extent, you're right. It is a super strict budget deck. Remember, 600 dust or less is the limit on this deck when it was designed. So for very beginning players, you might say, oh, I'm looking to upgrade. I want a better version of this deck. I have more cards. I have more dust. Maybe you're starting with that deck and you want to go from there. So you're looking for a zoo deck that's a little more competitive. I would consider this list, I went ahead and put this together, an intermediate zoo deck. So this is a 1200 dust deck. 1200 or less dust deck. So twice as much dust, but substantially more powerful as well. Essentially, this deck adds the card Forbidden Ritual, a new Old Gods card. It's a rare, so it's somewhat expensive for the regular list, but this allows you to summon lots and lots of stuff all at once, which, as we know, is good in this kind of list, particularly with the Darkshire Councilman. We also added a couple Direwolf Alphas, which are great with token minions, even better with a card like Forbidden Ritual. I also added a couple Dark Iron Dwarfs. This is a card that used to be very prominent in Zoo and has kind of fallen off. But when you're still on a somewhat of a budget and you have to get a lot of rares like Doom Guards, Defender of Argus, and Forbidden Rituals into your deck, Dark Iron Dwarf is a very powerful common that is good to include and works well with the deck archetype and is in general an underrated card, I think. We also added 2 Defender of Arguses, which are great with token minions and just board presence decks in general because they give you taunts that can really disrupt your opponent's plans, and just big stats that have charge, essentially. In other words, they get to act immediately when you buff that minion that's already on the board ready to attack. And then finally, we did add in the 2 Doom Guards that is much the staple of zoo decks all around the world. These are just the giant bodies that are very cost efficient and have charge as well, so sometimes you can do tons of damage, clear a minion instantly, kill your opponent, just the perfect crowning piece to a zoo deck. So as you look to upgrade my budget zoo, a deck list somewhat like this will get you halfway home to a very competitive zoo list, and you can make more replacements in the future, but that will depend on your collection and how you play the deck and what you see as a good fit for your playstyle. So now that we've ran through the deck in quite a bit of detail, I'd like to just go ahead and take it out onto the ranked ladder. This is the full budget version, remember. That's not how you play games, that's how you look at lists. So let's take it out onto the ranked ladder. We're rank 8. This is pretty late in the season. It's a decent sample of what this deck might look like against rank 15 opponents, perhaps earlier in the season. So should give us a pretty good feel for how this deck competes against opponents that you might find on the ladder playing it yourself. I will also say, though, that this is still quite new in the Whispers of the Old Gods timeline, so it's somewhat hard to tell what opponents are playing, and who knows what we're going to encounter. It's a little unpredictable in that way. I'm going to keep the Possessed Villager because it's a 1-drop. I'm also going to keep the Darkshire Councilman just because it's our best card. It's not likely going to be... we can't play it on turn 2 because we don't have the coin, and it may not even be a good turn 3 play, but I just want to make sure we have one. I don't want both because I do need a 2-drop or another 1-drop or something. That'll work. But keeping one is typically okay. So this is probably going to be a good zoo deck we're playing against, it looks like. So Flame Imp. Nope, another Possessed Villager. I was going to play the Balfen, but I think the Succubus challenges his board a little better. We risked losing the Darkshire, but I think it's okay. That didn't actually hurt us too bad. We were going to do that anyway, so he kind of just saved us some trouble in a sense. Oh, I did this backwards. Whoops. Should have played the Darkshire Councilman first before trading. I got a little ahead of myself. That's alright. Oh! Drew the Soulfire for the kill. And that actually did punish us quite a bit because now I can't kill this. So we'll just play our hand on curve, get lots and lots of minions out there. If we draw into something like a Frost Wolf, this could be a really good scenario. He's hero powering. That's gonna hit something for sure. Oh wow! That's awful for him. That is so awful that he didn't hit any of my minions. Like, that is just the most unlucky thing ever. I'm actually going to play both of these. We can life tap next turn. This is going to be awkward for him probably, which, you know, if I draw the Frost Wolf or something, it's going to be nuts. I'm going to be in good shape. If he's the kind of guy that runs, like, AoE... Oh, that's good. That's pretty good for him. I need one of my... Oh, there it is. That's exactly what I was going to say. I need one of these. A damage spell to kill this. And then we'll life tap as well. We soul fired before we life tapped for a very specific reason. That's because if I'd life tapped first, I would have had to either play out of an order or discard my card. For instance, if I'd life tapped first, I played this before soul firing. This could have hit the Darkshire Councilman. I mean, there's, you know, it may have changed the outcome of our plays. We're going to trade this way. It's very unlikely he has a way to do 1 damage to multiple things. So it's better to have 3 1-health minions than a 3-health minion, for instance. I just don't think that this card is that good, personally. So we have to kill these councilmans every time. I'm playing a little fast, maybe too fast, but I feel like the trades are somewhat obvious in a sense. Oh, that actually hurts him quite a bit at this point. He's low enough that we can kind of start racing, in a sense. Oh. So we'll just kill here. Those threatened our taunt, which was protecting our Darkshire. We also have 5, 6, 7 damage. We should be able to play 2 minions or draw into some damage this turn. So I think we're probably going to win almost no matter what here. That's almost enough in itself, isn't it? It's, yeah, 8, 9, 10. Alright, so we actually beat a better Zoo deck. I don't think we actually made a pretty substantial misplay as well and still eked out the win. Just good luck running well. So you can see how quickly these games go and just how this deck, we had 5 or 6 minions on the board half the game, right? So now granted, Zoo decks are somewhat bad at dealing with floods of minions because they don't run AoE removal. A Druid, for instance, who has swipe could have ruined our board on numerous occasions with a swipe. So it's not always that smooth, right? Particularly with this kind of deck where you run a lot of 1-health stuff that still cost a lot of mana. Like Bilefin, for instance. So we'll just play on curve here. We've got a solid 1, 2, 3. So he may have a 3-drop. He very specifically coined out the wild growth, which typically means he has a good 3, like a mounted raptor, perhaps. So I'm just playing on curve last turn. I don't need a life tap. I want minions first. That's a pretty decent kill for him, honestly. This is one instance where it's unfortunate that this has taunt. Why didn't he kill this? I am absolutely flabbergasted. He may be planning a swipe. If he swipes at this point, he can't kill my Darkshire Councilman without an Innervate. Actually, he can't kill it anyway, because this taunt will protect it. So I'll be able to play 3 minions next turn to make this a 4/5. Or a 4/4 in this instance, I guess. I'm actually going to play the taunt instead of the villager, just in case it does somehow protect my councilman. This, again, is one of our most valuable minions, remember, so the more we can keep this alive, the better. He could swipe again, perhaps, and kill the Councilman, but we still have 2 minions on board with the Frostwolf. That's going to be pretty good. This will be a 6/6. If he kills one of these with, like, a Living Roots, it'll be worse. I may not do it. Wait. Background of Evil. Okay, that's fine. I could play these, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and go for the Frostwolf Warlord value. We've already seen 2 swipes. Druids don't really run a lot of removal. I didn't trade here, by the way, because I'd lose both my minions. And he's going to have to trade anyway. I was expecting to be able to kill this, but obviously that is not the case. But we can just play another Frostwolf and trade here. He's out of swipe, so he may have to... well, he's probably going to run the minion in here. That's fine. I think Frostwolf Warlord is an underrated card in general. I don't know. It's like a Fel Reaver almost. He can't Twin Emperor Veclor, right? Isn't his Cthulhu only at like 8/8? I don't remember, but it wasn't that high. I'd like to be able to get through that, but we don't really have a... I guess Power Overwhelming doesn't even help. That's 5, so we'll life tap because we know we have a play no matter what. Alright, so we gotta make the trade this way. It's fine. Knowing that both his swipes are gone gives us so much wiggle room to just go nuts on the board. But like, how bad would this be to swipe, right? He would just ruin our board. But the fact that he used both swipes gave us so much confidence to play the board. That's somewhat fortunate, actually, because that second swipe of his was not very good. Do we have lethal in any way? 10, 13, 14. We're 1 off lethal, 2 of the hero powers. So we have a good chance to drawing lethal between 2 cards. I think we have 6 cards that grant lethal, but he concedes anyway. Okay. So we just beat a Cthulhu Druid deck, which presumably is one of the best Old Gods decks that we've identified so far. So again, you can see the power in the budget zoo 600 dust deck, already competing at rank 8 at the end of the season, which means that rank 8 is actually quite competitive at this point. So all kinds of potential with the budget zoo Warlock. I'm going to play one more game just because these do go quite quick. And even though I don't think there's necessarily all that much to discuss about playing the deck, it's fun to play. So we have a good curve again here. We'll just keep this. There's no reason to be greedy. Possessed Villager is admittedly not the best 1-drop necessarily, but it works. And it's hilarious looking. I love the art. Yeah, this is a good counter to this card. I'm actually going to play this one first because I don't think the taunt helps me at all right now, but the taunt for Balfin might help me later. Because in other words, if I taunted, I'm going to lose a 1/1 no matter what. It's really not a big deal what he attacks here. If he attacks the 2/1/2, that's fine. If he gets a bigger minion out, I may hold the Darkshire for guaranteed value as opposed to playing it on turn 3. Yeah, see, he played the Flame Imp, so this could die quite easily to like a Flame Imp Abusive Sergeant. So I think we'll just play the Razorfin Hunter instead. I'm going to attack face here. I'm not going to attack the Possessed Villager, and I'll tell you why. It's because that would essentially allow the Possessed Villager to attack twice before his next turn is over, instead of just attacking once. Because I attack it now, I activate the second minion, which can then also attack and kill something like my boar. Now he has 3 1/1s to decide between. when he trades, which means I might have an extra minion alive next turn. Yes, that will still be alive too, but I may be able to trade like a Razorfen Hunter into it or something, for instance. I don't have a good way to kill this. This could get scary very quickly. I can play my own, and I probably will, even though it's very susceptible to free trades. It would only be a 2/5. He only needs 2 minions to make his a 5/5, so he could trade it and it'd be a 5/3. I wonder if I'm not better off just playing these guys. No, I'm not. Because then next turn I wouldn't have a guaranteed councilman. I can council again next turn and it'd be okay. The next 3 cards that each of us draw are going to decide who wins this game. He is ahead right now. But he doesn't have to stay ahead. If I get a good way to deal with this, and he has a couple weak cards, I can still win. If he life taps, I'm in a good spot too, because that means he's probably only going to be able to play 1 minion on this. Nope, he's still going to play 2. That is rough. That is actually a little tough. So if I draw Abusive Sergeant here, I'm in great shape, because I can kill this thing. Soulfire is actually sort of good. Sort of good. Yeah, it's actually okay. No, it's really not though, because I'm gonna lose my Darkshire. I think I'm just gonna. I can't though. It just dies for free. We're gonna life tap first. I have the Soulfire, and it's a 50-50 whether or not. I want this to hit the Argent Squire, by the way. So worst target. But I had to do it in that order because I want this minion out. I don't want this to be the one that gets lost to the Soulfire. So I couldn't Soulfire first. Essentially, I had a chance that it hit what I wanted. And this one trades into these 2 things pretty decently, whereas this dies to both of those for free. So I wanted to get the Flame Juggler out. I could have Soulfired first, but then there's a chance the Flame Juggler dies. It disappears, right? I lose it. There was a 50-50 I lose my Councilman anyway, which sucks. He's running my upgraded Dark Iron Dwarf. Nice. So, I'm very behind right now. Just really, really far behind in the game. That doesn't really help. I guess I can kill a Flame Imp. And I will. These things trade for free, so he's up a 4/4 and initiative. I really don't see how I win this game at this point. I think his deck is probably better than mine, so his hero power draws are going to be better.
I have no time for games.
Whoa, is this a... What? I did not expect that to happen. Not at all. If one of these things sticks, if he decides like not to kill this 1/1 because he wants to do 9 damage, I can actually power overwhelming the Sylvanas and maybe regain a little bit of a hope here. Never mind, that kills my plan. That kills the plan. This kills the plan. That double kills the plan, man. Yeah, so he did exactly what I described. If it weren't for the taunts, I very easily could have made this trade. That's actually good. He's gonna steal my Frostwolf Warlord, but what else can I do, right? The game is over. He has 9, 11, 12 damage, so he should go here to here and then just steal my Frostwolf and the game's over. He might also just have 2 damage to end the game. There it is. The game is just literally over now. Alright, well, that'll wrap it up for my budget Zoo Warlock for Whispers of the Old Gods. That game, I think, showcased pretty nicely what happens once you fall behind just a little bit. Really, it's just 1 or 2 minions behind. Means you're probably never going to get back in the game. You really need to get the board early, leverage your board to trade effectively, and then continue to deposit new, stronger, more powerful minions along the way, or at least more minions. But still, you can see the deck is quite competitive despite the budgetary restrictions. So I wish you luck with this deck. If you have any questions about this one, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'm happy to discuss it with you, including any specific upgrades you think might work with your collection. So if you have cards that you think fit, feel free to ask. Appreciate all your time. Thanks so much for watching. And until next time, game on.